First, welcome everyone to tonight's Lean Into Allyship event titled A Movement or a Moment, South Madison Innovators. So hopefully you had a chance to read the articles that were in the promotional invite as well. You will have seen, if you did, you will have seen that there was numerous individuals that are driving this renaissance and revival in South Madison. And we are honored and privileged to have three of them here with us tonight. So Dr. Alex G., Dr. Karen Menendez Coller, and Dr. Anthony. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is discussing that South Madison revival and what it means to them personally, and talking about their new state-of-the-art community and business centers that are set to open here in the coming years as well. And what they're really going to be allowing is South Madison to return to its place as the epicenter of Black and Brown culture in Madison, provide resources for future generations to thrive, and really change the narrative about what it means to be a person of color in Madison. And you're going to hear them talk about those items tonight. Just three quick housekeeping items before I enter. Actually, I have a question for everyone here, and then we'll do intros of the speakers. So the first thing is that we ask that you strongly consider donating to the three organizations you're going to hear about tonight in the intros, because we cannot and do not expect these individuals to give their time for free to educate us on these issues. Second, we will be sending out an article or all of the resources. So Don will be dropping things in the chat tonight. All of that, feel free to take notes, but that's all going to come in the follow-up email. So feel free to just take sit back and let it all soak in for what we're going to be talking through. And then third, like I just mentioned, the chat's actually going to be turned off to you as the attendees so that we can provide those resources. So please leverage the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And we'll actually be asking you a question right now to leverage that Q&A. Also, throughout the event, please enter your questions as soon as you have them. We'll try to ask them in the order in which they were, provided near the end of the event. You'll actually get to interact, and we'll ask those questions to the three speakers as well. But I'm actually going to flip the script real fast before we get started and then do the introductions. If you saw in the articles, or if you've been to the events that have been held with these speakers as well as others, they're often asked, why now? And we're going to flip the script and ask, why now for you? Why are you here now listening to this event? And what are you willing to do to sustain this movement? And so that's not a rhetorical question. I want you to enter your thoughts into the Q&A because we're not going to ask the speakers that tonight. They get asked that in every other forum. We want to know, what are you going to do as a would-be ally to help support their actions as we move, as we talk about what they're doing in our community. So I'm just going to wait a minute, see what comes through here, and then read a few things, and then actually move on into the introductions as well. So we have some things that are already coming in. So supporting financially and verbally. Tim Sorensen has definitely attended almost every other event. So educate, donate, and affiliate. So that's great there. Sue has mentioned taking the Black History course, looking for ways to find active ways to address these concerns. Phil, talking about the energy and money, so affiliating, educating, and donating to 6 organizations. And somebody who is anonymous had said they don't want to move to another city, so they're supporting all of these organizations because Madison's already wasted too much time on these as well. So unfortunately, I would have shouted out your name on that one, but we'll leave it as such. And please keep answering that as we go through, because we like to keep that, and we actually record all of that as well. So I'm going to introduce the speakers, try to get through this as quick as possible, but also understand that they have an incredibly rich background that I don't want to shortcut before we jump in. So Dr. G has attended most of these events in the past. He's the president, founder, and the visionary of the nonprofit Nehemiah. The vision of that organization is to engage the greater Madison community to empower African-American individuals, families, and communities to bring about hope, transformation, and justice. He's actually a writer, a community activist, a life coach, an international lecturer, a relief worker, a podcast host that continues to invest in Madison. So we'll talk about that again at the end. A pastor and author, and the list continues. So there's a lot there. He's also studied at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Fuller Seminary, and the Bakke Graduate University, where he actually earned his doctorate. And he has 35 years in this space of educating and serving as an advisor to leaders across the world. And some of his most recent efforts have really focused on educating mobilizing white allies. So try to get through that fairly quickly, but there's such a rich history there, as well as I didn't even talk about the awards he's won. So welcome, Dr. G, tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Beltran.
Dr. Karen Menendez Coller, so she's actually the executive director for Centro Hispano since the summer of 2013. And the mission and vision of that organization is empowering youth, strengthening families, and engaging the community. She's earned a bachelor's degree from the University of California at Berkeley, a master's from the University of Michigan, and then a doctorate from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. And from what I understand, Dr. Karen Menendez Coller that's really where you kind of gravitate towards combining that hard science with the community involvement that we're going to hear about tonight. So she's a transformative leader whose ambitious approach to Centro's fundraising has enabled the items that we're going to hear about tonight and really help develop more programming, serve more people, and really live out her commitment to that thriving Latino community where they can grow and flourish here in Madison. So welcome, Dr. Karen Menendez Coller as well. And last but not least, Dr. Ruben Anthony. He's the president and CEO of the Urban League of Greater Madison since March of 2015. The mission of that organization is to ensure that African Americans and other community members are educated, employed, and empowered to live well, advance professionally, and contribute to the common good in the 21st century. So he's been a manager for over 27 years, and the majority of his career, 19 years of that, have actually been a manager with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, where he started as a first-line supervisor and eventually served as a COO from 2003 to 2010. He's also the architect of the Wisconsin model for increasing disadvantaged business enterprise participation, and was actually asked to go on a national tour with the FHWA to share that model, which is viewed as the top 2 models in the nation for increasing small and disadvantaged business participation. So really, really impressive things there. And he's also won numerous local, regional, and national awards that we don't have time for to list all of them here as well. So welcome, Dr. Ruben Anthony. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. G. He's going to facilitate the discussion. And as I turn this over to Dr. G, I just want to remind the attendees here tonight that these leaders are not spokespeople for their entire community of color. This is going to be their perspectives. I know that's often viewed as some of the questions we get are framed as such. So please frame your questions for them personally and understand that what they provide is that perspective as well. So Dr. G, I'll turn it over to you. And as a reminder, keep the questions coming in and we'll ask it at the end of the event.
Dan, thank you so much. And as always, I appreciate my friends at The Generator who help us in hosting this so this can be a very meaningful experience. And a special welcome to my guests, my colleagues, and my friends, Dr. Karen and Dr. Ruben. Thank you all both for being here so much. You know, before we get into some of the questions that I have for you tonight, I just want you to know that I want this to be a fun, laid back time of discussion, because we do this a lot. Like, we're on all the time representing our communities, representing our projects. And so I hope that we have some fun. I hope to throw us a little bit, a few curveballs. But I want people to get a chance to not only know about your project, but a little bit about you as well, because I think that piece is just really important to folks. So I just have one question before I ask each of you just to talk a little bit about your own projects. There's one question that we're often asked. I think this is the 4th time we've been on a panel together in the last couple of months. And the one question that we always hate being asked, that we're asked is what? Why all of this in South Madison, and are you all competing against each other? And I want people to know that Karen and I are in competition with each other. We like.
I'm out to get you. I'm out to get you, Alex.
Yeah. That we hate being asked that question because it's hard for people to assume that we're doing tremendous work within very close proximity of each other, that we can actually respect and like each other. So that is not a question we're going to answer or address, but I'm so glad that you all are here. So before I ask you about the center, let me just ask, Karen, just how are you doing tonight? How are you feeling? This is so great that you're here in the evening. I know you got family and responsibilities, but just in general, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good today. I think a lot of this, and I know you and Ruben understand, is a lot to carry alone sometimes, and it feels that way. It's a very solitary thing, but I'm at Centro, and we were just finishing up a circle with some grad students that are going to be Latin health professionals. And it just felt really empowering to talk about our strengths, our resilience. And oftentimes I think our communities are seen as there's a lot of deficits, and we need to figure out how to fix it type of thing. And I think focusing on our strengths and all the assets that we bring it helps me quite a bit to continue on this journey. And being here with the both of you, because I've said it before, and I can't tell you like how much I truly mean this, to be with you and to hear those introductions every single time. It just means a lot.
That's so wonderful. Thank you. Ruben, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. First, it's truly an honor to be with my good colleagues tonight. I know that we are co-conspirators in terms of trying to do work in this community. For me, I'm glad to be here tonight. I feel like 2 weeks ago I kind of jumped off a fast-moving train, and things are just now slowing down. A couple of weeks ago I had knee surgery,
Right.
and I'm not used to having like a slow pace and things like that. So it's driving me crazy. I'm used to being driven, having like every second of my day like planned into the evenings. And when we came onto the meeting, someone talked about Dr. G having 10 meetings today. I'm like, hey, I mean, why shouldn't you? We all are doing the same thing, I mean, we're all working from morning to night, but it's for a good cause, right? We all are really trying to have a significant impact, on the community. And only when you slow down do you realize, I mean, how overpacked and how overbooked your schedules are. And so right now, over the next couple of weeks, I'm trying to restore, and I'm just really, really in awe of the work that each of you are doing, and definitely in awe of the work that my team at the Urban League are doing, because we carry a big load, and I think we're all having great results. So thanks for having this conversation tonight.
Oh, so glad you're here. Dr. Anthony, is that a facsimile machine in the back? I won't even call that a fax machine. Is that a facsimile machine?
Yeah, it is. It is. My grandson
Wow.
played with it, and he's like, "What can I call it? This thing?" I'm like, and it still works too. Yeah.
And it still works because you get facsimiles on
Yeah.
it. I'm not gonna mess with you. We got a new thing. It's called email. It's fast. It's free.
I know. I just couldn't get rid of it.
No, I'm laughing. I just had to laugh when I saw. Man, listen, you all. I'm going to get into the work of our projects in just a few minutes, but I want to ask things that I don't hear you all being asked. So, Dan, can you shoot me a private message when you need me to shut down to pass it back to you? But let me ask you this, starting with you, Dr. Karen. Who was your role model for community service growing up? And Dr. Anthony,
I always, I mean, not to be, I don't know what this sounds like, but honestly, my mom, I come from a family that she and my dad made a tremendous sacrifice to kind of live in two different countries because he couldn't find work here. So he stayed in El Salvador, and she kind of stayed here raising us. And we moved around quite a bit. But, I also respect a lot of, we call them elders in our community, meaning individuals that have a lot of, wisdom that I think for me as a Latina, I've learned a lot from. These aren't people in universities. These aren't people in those types of spaces, but they're in the community, and they really understand how things go down and how things work. So, I think about them and look towards them for guidance. But my mom was one of those people where, it's the same thing as what we find here in Madison. They keep the city running in the best way possible for young people, for me, for other generations. And so it wasn't ever a thing for her. It was just a way of how you do things and how you care for each other with respect, with dignity, with kindness, with compassion. She gave her heart in everything. And so that's kind of how I am. I am who you see. And I try to keep that in every single space that I'm in, whether I'm in community, where I'm with a donor, whether anywhere else, because that's how I know my soul is going to remain intact and I can be authentic. So
that's wonderful. I know she must be tremendously proud of you and both of your parents. How about you, Ruben? Who was your early role model in community service while growing up?
Yeah, definitely. My mother, father, and uncles were role models. Each and every one of them, they got up and went to work every day for 20 years. They were the types of people who got on a job and stayed on a job. Jobs weren't always like the best jobs. They weren't office jobs. A lot of time it was manual labor. My mother was a union person. She worked in electronic devices, so she was a member of IBEW for many years. My father was a union worker, so they worked hard. My father was an entrepreneur where he had lots of hustles on the side, where he did scrap metal, moving, and all those things. I looked at what they did there, and it really, meant a whole lot. Community center director there, Miss Mary Tynes. She's historical. I'm from Yonkers, New York, and everybody went to the community center for different things. If you read DMX book, he talks about the Neppahan Community Center. Mary J. Blige and the rest of those folks are from my hometown. We all experienced really, hard times, and the community betted on us, and they encouraged us to go to school and leave Yonkers and find different places because we did well in school. We had an opportunity to leave. Came to Milwaukee when I was 17. I came here by talking to Howard Fuller on the phone. Lights turned out in my house, and really didn't have a whole lot of resources. Howard said, get to Milwaukee, I'll have a room for you. And they gave me a scholarship at Marquette University. In Milwaukee, individuals like Don Sykes, who was head of the Social Development Commission, Bill Gore, who was over the Fine Police Commission, and Bob Colcroft, and those guys were mentors for me. They hadn't really seen Black executives, and but each one of them touched my life in special ways, and from them I wanted to be a public servant, and so I got the opportunity to do that, and my life has been committed to service.
Ruben, I've known you for years, man, but I didn't know that Howard Fuller was how you got to Milwaukee, and it's part about your lights being out. And I didn't know that you met Robert Colcroft. Bob Colcroft is my cousin.
Yeah,
our great grandfathers were brothers.
Yeah.
And so to know that you're interacting, with members of the G family that far back is amazing.
Yeah,
that's really amazing.
Well,
hey,
let me tell you something about Bob before we go. So Bob called me up, and he heard that I was in town. I had a master's degree, and I was getting ready to go back to Mississippi. So he said, "Hey, I'm from Mississippi too." He said, "Hey, you ever been to Madison?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been to Madison, but I was there for a college party." So he said, "You know how to get here?" I said, "Well, I can tell you, I don't know how I got to those parties or how I got home. And so I don't know if I can get to Madison." So he gave me the directions, and he invited me to Madison, and I've been here ever since. So he laughed when I
got you to Madison.
Yeah, he laughed when I told him I had only been here for college parties, so I didn't know how I got here or how I got home, but it was the truth. Yeah.
Man, I love that. I just have a few other questions. And audience, I want you to know this. These folks, my colleagues Karen and Ruben, were leaders and have been leaders way before their projects. And one of the things I want to make sure happens is that they're not so connected with these wonderful multi-million-dollar projects that they're leading that people forget that they are parents, they're children, they have siblings, they love their community, they have hobbies. And sometimes the work of the city can just task you so much that you're just known by what you do, and people forget a little bit about that humanity. So second question, because I want to leave some time to talk about the project, is except for your current role, not including your current jobs, I know this is tough. What was the toughest job you had? Let's just say from teen through 25. What was the hardest job you had? In any, you guys can go in any order.
You want to go first, Karen?
You can go.
All right. So probably the toughest job that I had when I was youth, they had a program called the CEDAR program, and they put young people to work during the summers. And I worked on a park cleanup truck where we went and we cleaned up parks, and it was like really hot, out there, and really dirty and things like that. And I did that part of the summer, and that was kind of rough. But maybe the toughest job I had was being a roofer. My dad, his company worked with individuals who needed a roofer, and I was a young strapping guy at that time, and they needed someone to carry the bundles up the ladder and put them on the roof, and that was like backbreaking during the summer. So I've had a lot of manual labor jobs that have really been really tough, but it really taught me the value of hard work.
Oh, I love that. Dr. Karen?
Yeah, I agree. I think I did the cleanup, gig also in high school. But you know what I always thought it was interesting, like in other places. Well, and I think, in some ways it can be meaningful here too, but there was always that connection to urban planning. So I think about you, Ruben, because I'm always like fascinated about that now. And I'm like, oh man, I should have really thought about it back then. And it would have been a really cool profession to go into, maybe if I connected the dots. And so I feel like, but I don't, that I understand the intention of why we were doing it, but I wish that more was done to connect the dots and make that, the possibilities a little bit broader than that. So a lot of like, graffiti cleanup, community work outside, just helping out with the neighborhood. That was like kind of my regular summer thing.
I used to work at Arby's on Park Street. It's closed, and I hate that because I used to love the barbecue. But it was fun because you could work with your peers. Back in those days, you could work to bar time. So if you know South Madison, Mr. P's was right behind Arby's.
Mm-hmm.
So the bar crowd would come out. So you'd be working until like 1:00, but filling ketchup bottles, cleaning out fryers, taking down the shake machine, mopping bathroom.
Yeah.
Fast food service is hard work.
Yeah.
And I think it set me up for the hard work that I'm doing now. But to be a 15, 16-year-old kid wearing a polyester brown suit and that those little paper hats and doing all of that work for $3.15, that was I think that was one of my hardest work. That and delivering newspapers in the wintertime. When kids used to deliver,
too. But winters in California aren't the same. Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
I
Oh,
deliver newspapers too. Yeah.
Yep.
did you really?
Yeah. My first job, I got paid a quarter a week. When I told my son that, he said, "Did you kill the guy who paid you a quarter a week?" And no, I was a kid, and I was a kid, and one of my uncles had a laundromat, and he paid me to clean out the dust that was at the bottom of the dryers at the end of the week, and he gave me a quarter. But I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, but I loved it, So I used to shine shoes.
Wow. Oh my goodness! So you were a hustler. That drive. When you deliver newspapers back in the day, I delivered for Madison newspapers or Cap Times, but also for the Milwaukee State Journal when Madison newspaper was on strike. They would dump your paper somewhere. Mine was dumped at St. Mary's Hospital. You have to go fold those bad boys, put them in a big canvas sack, put it on your back, and then ride, and then you have to collect money and then write checks out to Madison newspapers to pay for your paper. So you're running your own little business, not just delivering it, but you were collecting money and stuff. It was good training, good opportunities for kids. You all, I have another couple of questions, but I'll bring them in after we talk about our center, because we've got folks who are listening. We also send this out to our list of hundreds of folks. So there are people who will listen to this afterwards too. So please know that there are probably hundreds of people that'll get a chance to watch this, learn more about your projects. We'll have links so that they can support what you're doing as well. But rather than just saying, give me a description of these wonderful projects that you're working on at Urban League and at Centro, let me ask the question this way. You can think about it for a minute as you answer, rather than telling us what the program is and feel like you're, in that treadmill that we're always on and describing stuff. You both talked about your mothers being your role models. And I don't know if your mothers are still, if you're fortunate to still have your mothers here. I hope that they are, but not, they're looking down on you, I'm certain, with pride. Help me to understand your projects by telling me, what would you want your mother, those role models, to feel and experience when they walk into the building that you're building once it's up and running and functional? So rather than just saying, there's this many square feet and this many rooms, think about this through the lens of the people who've taught you to do this, and give me a sense of what this project will do, what it will invoke, what it will create, by just sort of helping us understand what they will experience. And I'll jump in. I'm making this up. I've never had, this is one of my questions I've never asked before, but I'll just jump in and say it this way. My mom loved history and introduced me to it by going to school as an adult. I would want her, and my mom struggles with dementia, with Alzheimer's. I would want her to walk in and have a moment of clarity where she sees the stories of Black people and their work around the state, and realize how long she had to wait sometimes to see the accomplishments of Black people in Madison. And I would want her to walk through and feel overwhelmed by this sense of pride that she and folks like her are role models, and we're not just telling the stories of Lou Alcindor when he played for the Milwaukee Bucks, or the great leaders, but we're telling the stories of grandmas and babysitters and bus drivers and CNAs and professors. I would want her to feel this sense of pride that the community has not forgotten Black culture. The community has not forgotten Black people, and the legacy of what she and those who've gone before her will go on for perpetuity, and her children's 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 children will be able to never forget the great legacy of Black people in the community. I would want her to feel that, to hear that, to taste that, to experience. And so I'm just curious. I know that's an odd question, but I want to get us off of our ways of how we normally talk about the project. So whatever order you all want to go, what would you hope that your role models would feel and sense and know about the community when they walk through your completed beautiful projects?
I mean, I would say, my mom is a very different person now than she was in 1987 for our last trip to this country. So she's blessed to be in a community in Los Angeles where I think there's a Latinx feel to the space, so that she feels comfortable. That wasn't the same when we first arrived. I always felt that way, but for her, she thought about how she's going to make it work for the kids. And, oh my gosh, I don't really feel like I can take a breath here. I need to find another job, and I'll need to take 4 buses to go to my first job and 3 for my other one. And then will my son pick my daughter up from school every day, and how are we going to do this? So I would want her to feel a sense of dignity when she walks in, thinking about her now, and a sense of respect, and a sense that she belongs. I think, these buildings are one thing, and we've talked about it, I think the 3 of us, but it's what will begin there, and what will be carried when people walk out of those doors and after they have that experience, where I'm hoping they will feel, they'll understand a sense of history, and they'll be like excited by the potentials of business development at the hub, and then they'll feel respected, and then they'll feel like, you know what, I can take the city on. And hopefully in years to come, we'll all be drivers in transforming the way that the city feels for everybody outside of the buildings too. But I think that's what I would like. I would love a space for my mom to feel respect, dignity, and where I don't have to worry about how she's going to be judged.
Wow. And that, Karen, first of all, that's beautiful. That is so that's very touching. How does it feel to you? Because we know there's a lot of burden that comes with fundraising and all of this stuff, but how does it feel to be the one chosen, positioned, called, whatever language you use? How does it feel to be the one? You're standing on the shoulders of great people way back to the time, like the great folks. Yeah. Felt, my office is in the home.
I'm standing on the shoulders of you both too.
Yeah, yes. I mean, my office is in her old home next door to our, next door to our church. That's where the Thomases lived. How does it feel to have the opportunity to lead something that brings such dignity to your community? How does that feel?
It lately it's felt a little overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie about it, because the possibility of seeing it close, I think it's incredible for the community. We had an event recently, and to see people that were here, when this place got started, when Cuban refugees were coming in the 80s, and reflecting about the meaning of the space, we had the Latinx Historical Collective that's at the university stop by and said, we need to document this moment in history. Yes. Because this is something that's happening that's different for our city, and we need to document how people are feeling about it. I think the significance of the moment really hit home. I used to joke that, in other places, I run a nonprofit, but there's a lot of people and different things doing different things. But here, I think lately I've been starting to really understand the significance of what this place means for people. When we live in a city and in a county and a state where we don't have many rights, and we're not even sometimes understood. So it has been a little bit overwhelming recently, just because I've been reflecting quite a bit. So
beautiful. It's so powerful.
Mm.
Ruben, how about you, man? What would you love for a loved one or role model to feel when they walk into the hub, once it's finished and filled and hustling and bustling? What do you want them to feel when they walk in?
Yeah, I would say, my mother and father are both deceased, but my father, and mother both would probably say, praise God, he's paying it forward. He got the opportunity to leave and, look at, what he's been able to accomplish with others. So many people will benefit from this project that just coming in and knowing the services that we provide. I just think that they would think that it is going to be like a historical marker where many generations will come in and benefit from what we're doing. My father had like a home improvement and plumbing business for many years, and he was awful at keeping the books, but he was excellent at his trade of doing the plumbing and things like that. And I'm sure my father probably would say, I wish I had something like this around. When I was running my plumbing business, maybe it would have been a multi-generational plumbing business because he was good and he had business, a lot of business, but he just, really just wasn't good at, doing the support services. And that's one of the things that we can expect in the hub, is that all those things where people are really good in their profession, but not good, at marketing and HR and things like that, we'll be able to provide. Another thing that my father, as a business person, would say is, I never was able to get the bank loans and things like that. But now, with the accelerator program that they offer there at the hub, maybe I might have been able to get access to capital to not only, just barely make it with my business, but to sustain my business and grow my business and be able to successfully exit out my business and give it to a son or to a grandson or a daughter. I think they would be proud to know, the impact that we're doing. So it's just a great opportunity.
Sounds beautiful, man. And how does it feel for you? You're among many CEOs of Urban League, organizations around the country. How does it? And they run great programs, and local Urban League of Greater Madison has as well. But to do something this massive, how does it feel to be able to do this, to honor those on whose shoulders you stand and honor our community? What does that feel like to you?
Yeah, it's really great for our national president, Mark Mariel, to see our work as best practice and a national model. Some of our other affiliates have looked at what we've done, and they want to do it too. And Buffalo, across from the Tops grocery store where they had that mass shooting, they want to build a business hub across from there. And so many of my colleagues have looked at this work and other work that we have done here, and they've asked us to do it. I've been on several national conferences to talk about the innovative model that we use here at the Urban League and how others want to, borrow from that innovation and replicate it. And so really proud, to represent our historical organization, one of the oldest civil rights organizations in the nation, and to be bold about, trying to help Black and brown people build wealth and to take things to another level.
That's so great. When I think about our project, there's many floors and many rooms and spaces, and my passion is leadership development. But it's also networking and hanging out and fellowshipping. When a lot of Black dignitaries come to town, they go to the Capitol, they go to campus, they go to down, to plethora of places, but they don't really get to South Madison. We don't have gatherings where we can showcase those folks. So when I think of our building, there are a couple of places I want to hang out. The innovation space, because the focus of my doctoral work was transformational leadership, particularly in Black males. So that when I envision the space, I envision myself hanging out there, sitting, holding court with young Black leaders and talking to them about dreams and aspirations and all of these kinds of things. And I also picture the celebration space. Right now we're calling it Club Afrique, because our center is really focusing on the African diaspora. Folks from Africa, folks who are Caribbean, folks who identify as Afro-Latino and African Americans, and thinking about the various dignitaries from those communities when they come to the Midwest, to the state, being able to host them and have wine parties or gatherings. I picture myself hanging out in the innovation space and that lounge space. Particularly, that lounge space is going to have a patio that overlooks the Beltline. So I'm curious, when you two close your eyes and think about the beautiful facilities that you're building with your community, and there's so many beautiful spaces in there, tell me one space that you have imagined yourself when you think about it, where if you're in that building all by yourself, that's probably where you'd be hanging out. Karen?
Our plaza. I mean, if you come into our current building right now, it's an old print shop. It served us well. We have a plaza where we gather all the time, and it's got murals, and that's where a lot of the hanging out happens, and so having an outdoor plaza that connects indoor and that allows for that fluidity, so that you feel like you can breathe and you can sit down there and do business, but then also kind of just reflect on where you are and where you want to go next. I really foresee myself hanging out there, and then I'm going to come to Club Afrique because I want to hang out there too. So
I want you to.
Yeah. So like all these different spaces where you can just think about who you are as a human being, but in community with people that get it. And I think that's what's so exciting, that I think this whole area is going to be able to provide. So
yes. Ruben, how about you? What space in particular draws you? So imagine it, you're in it.
Yeah, so we have four floors, and right now the building is going up, and so I look out at that building from my conference room, and then I'm imagining each floor, how it's transpiring. I'm seeing it being built, from the ground up. Our building will be ready in spring of 2023. So concrete is laid, the steel is laid, and everything is going in well. But the floor that captures me probably the most right now is the fourth floor, which is the co-working space for the brown and Black owned businesses. And in this space, there's about 17 or 18 private offices, but then there's also cubicle space and cooling out space. There's a kitchenette there for events. There's event space, there's classroom space, and most importantly, there's a rooftop space where folks who are affiliated with the hub can now walk out on the roof, and they can kind of look over at your project, at Karen's project, and what's going on in South Madison. And it's just a beautiful space. I was thinking about putting a cigar bar on the first floor, and because we're gonna have an Afro-Caribbean restaurant on the first floor. Kind of talked out, of that, and I don't think we're going to be able to do that. But there's going to be so many wonderful spaces there. But I just can't wait to see the businesses in the community using that space so that they can really be an economic force in this region.
Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait to see that. We've got folks on this call who represent various organizations, many of whom have not gotten connected and involved. And so what would you like to say about the project, each of your projects, and the beauty and the need for them in our community? So it's an open way for you to take a minute or two to talk about the project without feeling like you've got to put a pitch on it, but just what would you like folks to know about this beautiful facility that's going up? Either what it'll do or what it'll accomplish.
I think we're in such an interesting time with how things are changing in the state and in the city and the county and all of that. I think these projects are needed for us to get to the next level in a way that really feels that we can include everyone. And we all hear about how this is the best city for people to live in and all of that. Yeah. So I feel like, this is, if that's really what we want to dream about, this is really what's needed. And I think we've talked about it too, but you know, in a very basic way, supporting these projects, I feel like, is a symbol of not charity for communities of color, but solidarity with us and saying we're standing with you. And let's really heal through this wealth, all the stuff that you hear people talking about these days. But honestly, understanding that we have lived in these communities and similar communities in other spaces, and there's no better way to balance things out for the future of our city if we want to do it the right way, to support these projects and to ensure that all of us, the three of us, continue to thrive.
Right.
I just feel like it's an opportunity to create some real change when there's so much talk and so much processing and so many agendas and so many meetings, and nothing ever really happens the way that it needs to. So this is a great opportunity for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mhm.
Ruben, how about you? What do you want? What do you want folks to know about the hub?
So first I'll say it's rare that we get an opportunity to design a space and to
Mm,
step in to say, here's what we want this community to be, and let us be a part of building this, not just talking about it, because we know that gentrification is running rampant in South Madison, and that we could have chose to stay on the sideline and not done anything and see all of the white developers come into our community and raise up wealth into these projects, and that wealth escape all of us. But we've got an opportunity now to capture some of that wealth and transfer some of that wealth to folks, brown and black people in the community. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the fact that we're going to bring not just a building. We're going to bring a building, and that's going to be available to folks in the community. But we're also going to bring resources. We're going to raise about $3 million in our accelerator program to provide training, to provide access to capital. And in fact, we've already started giving out, grants. We've given out 5 grants through our accelerator program for $50,000 each to businesses. We're betting on these businesses. Then the other thing is that we're going to start our training programs, and we've already had one cohort in partnership with Generator, where we've run a G Alpha training program where we've brought 24 individuals with their business ideas forward to kind of make it happen. And now we're right in the middle of G Beta, which is the second tier of folks who already have their businesses, but now they need to scale up. So we're doing the work, right now, and it's just not a lot of talk, but we're building an infrastructure so that folks that are, at the university, who might want to take their talent to Atlanta or to some other market, they have an opportunity to stay right here in Madison and build it, get resourced and have the support. So I'm excited, about, having a real economic impact, having all of these economic entities in one place in our hub. We're going to have banks. We're going to have kind of like a Black Wall Street area, of where we're going to have just multiple financial institutions there to help brown and black businesses. For me, and to be able to bring this level of resource in this community is just a dream come true. And it's going to be, again, the project that keeps on giving for multiple generations to come.
That's wonderful. I want to remind our audience that there are about 35 capital campaign projects that are happening, 35 capital campaigns that are going on, and only about 10% of which are led by people of color. And so people often ask about all of this hoopla in South Madison, but keep in mind, white executives, our white counterparts are not always faced with that same level of scrutiny or question. Like, isn't that a lot for the West Side? Isn't that a lot for downtown? Isn't that a lot? Let's look at East Washington. Who thought that was a lot for white programming or white developers? And so I wanted to keep in mind that, only about 3 or 4 of us, I say 4 to 5 are led by people of color. So this has been a long time coming. We're not the only ones that are doing developments, but between Black and brown developments, beginning with what happened with the Goodman South Campus, with Dr. Anthony's project, Dr. Collier's project, what Clean Care is doing, what Michael Johnson is doing, what we're doing. We're talking about well over $100 million in programming. Very few cities in the country, very few cities in the world can say that this is happening. And Madison is indeed blessed, really, really blessed to have this opportunity, to have this level of leadership. I just have a couple more quick questions. One, and Karen, you can sidestep this if you want to. You can just say, hey, Alex, that's for another day. You have to necessarily, but when we think about development in our community, in Black and Brown communities, men come to people's minds. If you ask people who are the Black and Brown leaders, they just start naming people, some of whom aren't even leaders. They start naming all of many of these Black men. One of the things I haven't really heard talked about is that while we're mentioning a lot of this development, you're a Latina, you're not just only representing the Latino, the Latinx community, but you're a woman as well. And I just want to acknowledge that I appreciate the leadership that you're exerting. And I guess I just want to ask you, you're getting it done, so people must be responding to your leadership. But do you feel that level of support of your leadership, whereas most of this for development in the city has been led by men who are business and nonprofit leaders? And so do you feel that the city is really supporting your leadership? I mean, I don't mean the city of Madison. I mean geographically Madison.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had a lot of eye-opening moments during this journey. I mean, things that I knew, I think we all know, things that I knew about dynamics by gender and race and all of that. I have definitely experienced things that make me feel like I may be counted less on at the table, and so it's been tough, and I think that's something important for the audience to know. Not only is it tough to be a leader of color in these positions, trying to create change in spaces where it's a challenge, and then being a woman on top of that, doubly hard, questioned, I feel, more than the norm, I would say. And I've had conversations with others about this too. It's very interesting. But on top of that, you put it on a campaign level where it's like, whoa, are you going to be able to handle that? And that building's going to be really big. And how is that going to happen? And then the questions come. So I think there's space for more trust. And I think there's space to self-reflect and think about, maybe if you're doing this too, has someone ever asked you those questions? So think about the person that you're talking to. We talk a lot about in the community about reciprocity. We were just talking about this a second ago, actually, here, but we don't need things to be equal. But if you expect some things for yourself, you need to give some of that back to me. And as a woman of color, keeping all those dynamics in line and the intersections there, I think is important. And I wish more people would think about that, because that's, it's necessary to sustain leaders like us in this community. It's a very lonely road, and we have a lot on the line in terms of a community that's growing so fast. And if we don't have the right supports or the right people in place to be here to do things the right way, we're going to lose a big generation of our community. So yeah, it's been tough, Alex. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't feel like that happens all the time.
No, I appreciate your honesty, because that's very transparent. But I want you to know we've got your back, and that we're expecting you to have to be in the room when something's unequal, or there's not enough of our female counterparts in the room or at the table. But that's not your place to address that issue. Just like we're talking to white allies on this call. Yeah. Brothers, men have got to be allies for this. We got to stand for each other. So I'm glad that you're honest in asking that. But I've thought of that. So I'm holding that in my mind and in my heart, so that when I can speak into that, when I see things that don't align with the great leadership that you exert, I just want you to know that even when you're not in the room, that there are folks like me and Dr. Anthony who are making sure that your leadership is being upheld, as we do for each other anyway. It's just being friends, colleagues, and South Madisonians. But because of this extra piece, I just want you to know we're being cognizant.
Yeah.
That. Dan, I know you're coming back in just a moment to ask some questions, but let me just say to the audience, my great concern is not whether or not these projects are going to get finished. These are fantastic leaders, fabulous leaders. Karen and Ruben are stellar. My fear is that when they're finished, other parts of the nation are going to come after them, wanting them to come and work and lead. Because if you can do that in Madison, you can do that any place else in the world, which is probably true. And so I'm just happy that your talents are here. This is not an inside track. No one's told me they're being recruited or they're looking at other places. I'm just saying, these are talented folks, and we're so fortunate. So when you get a chance to read the links that we send out, when you get a chance to look at the renderings, when you get a chance to click a link to support their work, to put a plug in at your jobs, to talk to your friends, to talk to your kids, to encourage philanthropy, this does not need to be either or. When you go to the mall, you get a pretzel, a Sleep Number bed, some Sephora, and then you still go down to JCPenney. You can do it all. And so let's not think that you got to pick which Black organization, is it Black or brown? The power structures are doing that to us.
Yes.
We know each other. So don't put that on us. Understand that you can support us all. Madison is not a broke city. It's not a poor city. And so let's act like it. But I want to just say to both of you as my colleagues, I respect you dearly, respect your work, respect you as individuals. And it is really an honor to have your service, your heart, your integrity, and your life's work in this community. And I'd be proud to be associated with you, even if I were on another side of town. But the fact that we will be able to see each other's project, even hear the drilling on each other's project. I can hear what's happening at Ruben's place from my parking lot. The fact that we do that in proximity and celebrate together is a great example of generations to come, because we are fast-growing groups. We're becoming more visible, and this country is ours too. And this is only a microcosm of what Black and brown people around the world and the globe will look at and say, we can do it and we can do it together. So this moment is sacred, and I'm honored to be in this space with you all. So thank you for being here. Dan's gonna ask maybe just a few more questions of us, but you all have really honored our guests by being here tonight.
Thank you.
Dan?
And yeah, for the sake of time, we probably only have a couple questions we're going to ask, all three of you actually. And feel free to kind of, the way that you handle Dr. G's questions as well, take them whatever direction you want. Question came in from Tim kind of early on in the session, which is a two-part question. So again, feel free to answer one or both parts, but what's the biggest challenge you've overcome on the journey to achieving, the initiative or the project that you're working on? And then what's the biggest challenge that maybe is still up ahead that the audience members take for granted or wouldn't even realize that these are challenges that are facing you?
Well, first of all, I think the biggest challenge was getting confidence of from the philanthropy and funding community. As Dr. G and Dr. Collier mentioned at the beginning, folks kept bringing up, why should we be funding multiple projects in South Madison? Why should we be funding multiple projects for brown and Black led organizations? So we had to overcome that, and still our projects are well over $20 million. I think Karen is 20, Alex is 40, mine is 25, 26. And so, being able to put the financing together to make these projects work. I was challenged to close. We closed maybe in the spring on our financing, with a new market tax credit deal, which was really complicated, to make happen. But we were able to kind of get it done. The second challenge that, we had to overcome is the inflation and the supply chain interruptions, right? Because you start out, with your project being costing one thing, next thing you know, they go up. We were able to get like a guaranteed maximum price on the core and the shell, so we're able to control some of our costs that way. But most of our tenant improvements and things like that have to take on the inflation because we didn't have the resources to kind of get that done. And so just the financing aspects of the project and getting the broader buy-in from the folks that, donate to these projects to say that it's warranted, given everything else that's going on.
Anything else? Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, I was going to say, I'd also say, yeah, I agree with what Ruben shared with the philanthropy piece, and also, yeah, just the climate and how things are. Also, I think a lot of our orgs are carrying the water for a lot of work that needs to be done. So that work doesn't stop. And so we're running an org at the same time that there's a lot of needs happening, and we're working on these projects to cement the sustainability for the future. So that's a lot to carry all at once, and it can be a challenge to maneuver all of that. So I was just going to add that other piece.
Thank you.
And I think just add that an upcoming challenge is ongoing programming for our projects. Capital is one thing, but ongoing support, and for the broader community to understand Madison truly can never be a great city for everyone until these projects are finished. And so the broader community needs to understand, yes, these are rooted in our community to meet very real needs in our community, but it is to make the broader community better as a whole. And people need to understand that.
Perfect. Thank you all for answering that. And the last question is very open, and thanks, Tim, for asking that question. Is just what challenge, so keeping in mind, I know Dr. G, you've mentioned it a few times, right? The primary audience in attendance is would-be allies. So what challenge or ask would you have of everyone in attendance tonight, or what final thoughts would you want to leave this group with? I'll kind of leave that open-ended. So again, challenge, ask, or just general thought that you'd want to leave the audience with.
Okay. I'll go first. I want to give Karen an opportunity to go first, but if not, I'll go.
You can go on, Ruben.
Okay. So one of the things I want to leave the audience with, although our project focuses on brown and Black people, our project is going to be an economic enhancer, not just for South Madison, but for the entire city and for the entire region. Because some of the businesses that we start up and grow, they're going to leave the hub, they're going to leave the nest, and they're going to go into on the west side, they're going to go on the east side, they're going to go on the Sun Prairie, and so we're building an economic engine that will have regional implications for, this entire region, not just for brown and Black people. There'll be other, there'll be women-owned businesses, white-owned businesses, and this hub will be for everyone. But we've launched it like this because there's been such a lack of resources for brown and Black owned businesses, but this will be an economic enhancer for the entire community.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Anthony.
I also think that, at Centro, we're the oldest org intentionally, the largest one focusing intentionally in the Latinx community, but been really proud to kind of create really a hub for a lot of work to be happening with other orgs that are intentional in that capacity, Latinx-led orgs. And so I feel like this space will be an exciting space to really transform the way things are done when it comes to the well-being of our young people, adults in our community. And I hope that there's a lot going on in the community, And my hope is that all these things will feed into the greater narrative of what the city can be. So that requires the allies also coming together, doing their work, doing their things in whatever spaces are necessary, and then not being shy of engaging in that collaboration, not just coming here when there's like an event or something going on, but purposely hanging out. And I can't tell you how many times I've been asked if it's okay for an ally to come to Centro and that they don't want to offend, numerous times. So I hope that, this development of South Madison will lead to some changes in the narrative and then some really innovative things that we can finally have been needed to transform our community. So
thank you, Dr. Menendez Coller.
And I would just say, just get connected. As I say to allies, you want to lean in and you want to be supportive. And so you want to educate, you want to donate, you want to affiliate, get involved, get connected. This is your community to this is what's going to make Madison special for your friends when your friends visit, for children if you choose to have them, and grandchildren. This is a part of what makes a city really world class, because it's developing people who can function in any environment, and an all-white environment cannot fare well in an increasingly pluralistic community. So this is an opportunity for us to really become a vibrant community that represents so many major parts of the world, and it just makes everything better for everyone. So understand it, talk about it, learn about it. Don't just turn away after this. Really lean in to stay connected. Join our mailing list. Click so that you know what's going on. Inform yourselves about what's happening and become ambassadors for the project. They will come up. It's in the news, it's in the paper, it's getting pub, it's getting press. When you hear, just say, oh yeah, I heard about that, I learned about that, or I want to refer people, I know some donors. Lean in and help us.
Perfect. And I think that's a great spot to bring this, event to a close. But before we do, Dr. G, you just mentioned educate, donate, and affiliate, and that's how we like to end every event as well. So I want to just quickly welcome Nehemiah's Director of Mobilization, Siobhan, just to highlight a few upcoming Nehemiah events. Just know that what Siobhan's about to share will be more Nehemiah centric, but want to again, when we send out the links, reemphasize that you should go to the other organizations of Dr. Anthony's, the Greater Urban League of Madison, Dr. Karen Menendez Coller with the Centro Hispano. Go to those organizations, sign up to those newsletters, in addition to what Siobhan's about to share as well. So Siobhan?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Siobhan Jackson. I'm very pleased to be here. I absolutely love all of the projects that have been talked about tonight, and I feel grateful to be working with Dr. G over at Nehemiah. I work as the Director of Mobilization, which most of what I do is helping to make sure we have all of the donations and all of the volunteer efforts moving forward with all of our direct services. For the purpose of this meeting, I always go through educate, affiliate, donate. Educate, of course, if you haven't heard about it already, our Black History for a New Day course. We're about halfway through our fall course already. So if you're interested in that course, if you haven't taken it already, or if you know somebody that hasn't taken it, give us an email over at justifiedanger@nehemiah.org, and we can get you on that list for the next term. Other opportunities, of course, being check out our website. We just updated our website not too long ago. Engage with our website, as there are plenty of great resources there, and other opportunities such as the White and Wondering group direct discussion, and that happens the third Thursday of every month as well. Go ahead and go to that next slide. Donate, of course. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out, and every week I let everyone know all our direct service needs, especially around the holidays. We have more programs running, more needs, and we greatly appreciate your help and your donations. I'll go ahead and do that next one. And of course, along those lines, one of the things that I've been harping on currently is to mobilize yourself, create mutual aid efforts in your own community, not just to help your own community, but if you have that opportunity, create mutual aid efforts that can support these nonprofits that we heard about today. And obviously invite a friend to a Nehemiah event. If I'm not mistaken, we already brought up the 30th anniversary of Nehemiah. And I would be remiss if I did not say, if you haven't bought a ticket already, please do. And if you'd like to, please join us. There's also, of course, the opportunity to volunteer for that event and help us make that happen. So if you're interested in volunteering to make that happen, please reach out to me at volunteer@nehemiah.org. And that's all I've got for you. Please. I'm so grateful for the space, for all of these leaders, and I can't wait to work with you all in all of our direct service work.
Great, thank you, Siobhan. So we only had a couple more quick things to wrap up the event. So as we do with every event, the Ally in Action. So again, a lot of what tonight has been, it was about Madison, but obviously, no matter where you're calling in from, understand that things like this can be supported in your own community. So the October challenge is find one way to get involved in this Madison movement. You heard numerous ways to get involved tonight. We're not going to give you a checklist. We're not going to say here's exactly what you have to do. What are your resources? What's your passion? How to get involved and support these areas? Like Dr. Menendez Coller said, it's not just attending the events. How are you showing up outside of those events as well? Or research what's being done in your community, because we know that this is often, we have people from across the country calling in and support this national movement as well. So the challenge to you that I would leave you with is, are you here for the moment, or are you here to sustain the movement? Back to the title of what this event was really about. Don't just be here for the moment because there's some big event that's been a tragedy that's just occurred is why you're showing up. As we kicked off the event as well, Black Like Me, so the award winning, continues to invest in Madison. Yep, Dr. G is wearing the shirt right now. So continue to listen to that podcast and for all the new episodes that come out. And just a sincere thank you to Dr. Ruben Anthony, to Dr. Karen Menendez Coller, and to Dr. Alex G for really giving your full selves and how you responded tonight, your time, and really helping to educate us in all of these initiatives. So the last thing, Siobhan mentioned November 11th, but then the next event, we're really excited to announce. More information will be coming, but Dr. G's storytelling will be showcased again at Cafe Coda. It will be live on Monday, December 5th. More information will be coming on that, but please mark your calendars for that as well. And again, we'll send a follow-up email with all of the links tonight, and we hope to see you there on the 5th. But thank you for taking your time this evening, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Well done.